Ya Allah.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Diplomat with Ambassador Dr. Ali Ajami. Dr. Ali Ajami, welcome again.
Thank you.
In episode 3, we're starting in Brasilia, where Dr. Ali Ajami was assigned to the embassy in Brasilia. Tell us, Doctor, about the transition from Cairo, Egypt to Brasilia.
Usually, it's not the decision of a diplomat to decide where he want to go. It's the decision of the ministry. And at that time, I was only about 2 years only in our embassy in Egypt. And I was so happy in Egypt. All of a sudden, I got the decision.
If the decision was up to you, you wouldn't have moved.
I would love to stay. I loved Cairo. I love the life in Cairo. But when the decision comes, you have two choices: either to go or to go back to the ministry in Beirut. So nobody would love to stay at the ministry.
Yes.
So I went to Brazil, and it wasn't easy. You know, imagine yourself taking your family, 4 kids, and I know no one. I don't know the language. When you reach to Brazil, you will be astonished at that time that nobody speaks English or French. They only speak Portuguese. So how could you? I mean, it was really a tough journey going to São Paulo and then moving to Brasilia, the capital city, where is the embassy located. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it went well, and the first 1 or 2 months were a little bit hard on me. But
what was your position?
I was the consul, and then later on I was nominated to be the counselor at the embassy. Mm-hmm. You know, to the audience who do not know exactly what are the steps at the diplomatic level.
Yes, tell us, please.
Yes, we have. You start as a consul, or they call it in the diplomatic way the secretary, diplomatic secretary, the consul, and then you get shifted up to the higher position. Next step is a counselor or a consul general.
Are they the same level?
Yes, counselor or consul general. And then the third step, which is the ambassador. So during my service in Brasilia, I was upgraded, or whatever you want to shift it to be, the counselor at the embassy. Mm-hmm.
Doctor, when you got your position in 1991, 1992, in the
ministry.
At the ministry, did you get trained on diplomatic work?
Usually, there is no real school to teach diplomats, as is you could see it anywhere else, any other country. You see a special college to train diplomats how to work when you are abroad at the ministries, at the embassies. But we don't have it in Lebanon. We usually just pass through certain sessions of training, slight
the
ones.
Protocols,
not very efficient. A Lebanese diplomat will learn his mission when he is abroad. That's what happened.
Yes. So 1996, and we are in Brasilia, and it took you a few months to adjust. The family and the kids, they went to what kind of schools?
The most difficult part of the story always, the schools, kids schooling, children's schools. You know, during this hell of a mission, rotating from Lebanon to Egypt, to Sultanate of Oman, back to Beirut, then to the States, then to Ivory Coast. I mean, the first 3 or 4 missions, it was hell for the kids. they were in Lebanon following the Lebanese curriculum.
And friends and culture.
And they were taught. They were learning French language. And when we were they were learning English language. When we went to Egypt, the curriculum in Egypt is not so very. It's not easy to get familiar with it. So I was obliged to put them in a international school. And then when they moved to international school with Egyptian curriculum, then to Brazil, you have to put them in a French school with the Brazilian curriculum. Follow it on. But now it is some kind of richness to the kids, because my kids, they are fluent in 4 languages: Arabic, English, French, and Portuguese, which is it was worthy. But at that time, it was really tough on them and on me.
Yes. I experienced that in my childhood because my father was a bank manager where he transferred a lot from one branch to another. And although you lose your friends and your comfort zone, but you learn how to make new friends, you become more diplomatic, actually. So your kids became more diplomatic more
than me.
Any stories that stand up during your stay in Brazil? Yes,
I already mentioned lately to you that I was at that time working on my PhD thesis, and I used to. I was in need for resources, Arabic resources, to complete my thesis, and the question was where to find these resources, and I found them at. I told you about him. One guy from. I heard lately that he donated all his public library to Bint Jbeil municipality.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they're transferring it from Brazil to.
I think so.
Should have opened a library in Brasilia. That would probably be.
Yeah. And I asked him at the time, where did you get all these books from? He told me that he was having some kind of connections with Dar al-Hilal, with Majallat al-Arabi, with Iraqi publishers, the Lebanese, Egyptian publishers, and they were sending him copies for free. And he built all this. His whole house was a big library. Nice. Anywhere you go, on the stairway, on anywhere, shelves all over, Arabic books.
What was he a publisher himself? Was he an author?
No, not at all. I mentioned him, and I think the introduction of my thesis. I thanked him very much for all this, and something else to tell you about it. My PhD thesis was about 700 pages. Foolscap, they call it. Big ones. I typed it myself. Because I learned how to type. I learned how to... At that time, it was just the beginning of computers. Talking about 1996.
Typewriters.
Yeah. No, I started writing on the computer. I do it myself. I learned how to type an Arabic language on a computer, because where could you find someone who could type Arabic? So
definitely, Doctor, a lot of inspirational moments here. All these small things is what makes a difference between one person and the other. Is these extra efforts that are done to cross these small hurdles that in front of production and being a productive person and a contributing person. Are you planning to publish that thesis?
It's a big one. It might need to be. It should be done into five separate books, because as I mentioned before, that we were talking about the evolution of social thoughts, social ideas in Lebanon, how it was manifested through the characters of the novels and short stories. And I was dealing with 5 different aspects of social social beliefs. So I think each one of them would, if I say if, it's not easy these days to publish, and it's not very popular to publish these days.
It's not profitable for sure, at least in the Arabic word. Doctor, in 1996, you established the Arab Diplomatic Group in Brasilia. Talk to us about that.
Yes.
Did you have the permission of the ambassador?
Yeah, for sure. You cannot do something without always at the embassies. You, in a matter of respect to the higher post at the embassy, who is the ambassador, you should consult him. You should take his permission. Rarely would they disagree. So it was just an idea how to meet. We were only...
the reason I ask, because it seems like an idea an ambassador would do.
At that time, I asked the ambassador, and he approved it. And, the ambassador was very nice guy. His name was Ghazi Shidia. I think he is still living in New York, although he's maybe in late 80s now, if he's still there. So the idea came just like this. I mean, why don't we? Because we used to pass the evenings together, me and the Iraqi chargé d'affaires and the Tunisian consul. Why don't we have some kind of not official group, just a group to meet? And that's how it was formed. We used to have a weekly gathering, if you don't want to say meeting, it's more official. Gathering, family gathering, bringing kids, bringing families to one of our houses, bringing food. Each one will bring his own traditional food. And
beautiful. How many countries participated in that?
We were at Brasilia. I think we were about 12 embassies. Not this much. Yeah.
Without causing any embarrassment, have you approached an ambassador or a group that refused to join?
No.
No, that's good.
Because, I mean, there's no reason for them to refuse it.
Yeah.
Usually, the diplomats of the Gulf countries, more formal, more
reserved.
Yeah.
But did they participate?
They would, not always.
Yes. It's interesting. We will come back later after we finish your diplomatic mission story at one of the episodes. We're going to talk about Arabism and Pan-Arabism and the feeling of Arabic. We're going to reflect on that subject, and this kind of starts that thought. So I feel, Doctor, that it's almost a torturing fact that you haven't lasted in Brasilia more than 2 years. And
3 years.
3 years. Adjusting into such a different country, and 3 years is nothing in the life of adjusting into a country. And then you were requested into a new mission, and this time
to Oman.
The mission is to. It says in your biography that in 1998 you became the consular.
Yeah, that's what
at
I
the
was
embassy.
promoted.
You promoted, and then in 1999. You moved to Muscat, Sultanate Oman.
Yeah.
Tell us about that move.
It's all not only from this to this. Any place when it's really a burden on the back. Imagine yourself coming to a place, establishing yourself, establishing your family, building up this network of relations, loving people, being loved by people, and then in a sudden you get the order, move. You have to cut everything behind you and go to the new post, start from zero, building again, cultivating again, everything. Talking about the house, talking about furniture, talking about kids' schoolings. It's really, really annoying. And at that time,
the kids are almost teenagers.
You had the option in front of your eyes. Either you take it or you leave your family at home. If you want your kids to follow up certain type, of fixed curriculum, studying curriculum, you have to keep them down. But I wouldn't take it. I always, whenever I go, they are on my back. They come with me because I don't feel like it. I mean, how could you live somewhere and your family and your kids are growing up, and you meet them only once a year? Or
right?
It's not wise. That's what I did.
Doctor, tell me how did you break the news to Hassan, to your wife at that point? Like, you got the news. How do you break it to the kids?
Same thing.
Your kids are mature, they're teenagers. Your wife, and I'm sure it's a shocking news.
It is a shock to her and to me.
How was their reaction?
For the kids, they love traveling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they loved traveling.
They were excited.
But to us, me and Layla, it was really it wasn't easy at all. You know what does it mean to pack and repack?
Of course, yeah.
In Egypt, when it was in
you're changing continents, you're not changing houses.
Imagine how you're moving from one country to another, and when you come to the new country, this is the main really obstacle. You know nothing. You know nobody.
You start from zero.
The only place that I served as a diplomat and I knew ahead people down there was Ivory Coast, because my brother lives there. My brother is a physician doctor since a long time. That's the only place. But all the other countries, even when I came down here, I know no one. It's not an easy thing. It wasn't. Again. When you build your relations, as if you are planting your roots in the soil where you are living, and all of a sudden you have to cut, and move to a new soil.
And replant.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you arrive at Muscat. Did you stop at Lebanon first and then?
No.
Straight.
I came directly from there to Muscat.
Do you know reasoning? Did anyone share with you reasoning of their choice? No.
You know, in Lebanon, the way it goes in Lebanon, it has to do with religious reasons. In this embassy, there should be an ambassador of this specific reason, and the council.
Right. Yes. Before we go there, in the year 2000, Israel withdrew from Lebanon under the pressure of the resistance. How was your reaction and the reaction of the Lebanese in Brazil?
And if somebody would tell you that we were not happy, he would be a fool. Everybody was happy. It wasn't. It was really a sudden decision. We couldn't believe it. Would Israel withdraw? And they did it. I think till now they are not happy with that decision. They would have preferred to stay, because all the political map of the area changed by this. I don't think they were happy at that time, and they are not happy at this time.
It was a very clear defeat, and a victory among the blackness that you mentioned in the last episode. It was a very strong, shining light and hope for Arabs in general, that victory is possible, and
that's true.
Defeating an occupier by force is still possible. Also, Doctor, before we move with you to Oman, Lebanese in Brazil, one of the biggest communities of Lebanese outside Lebanon. I heard in one of the studies that's estimated over 1 million.
How much?
1 million. But they probably...
the number you're mentioning is very, very modest. In Brazil, you're talking about 10 to 12 million of Lebanese descendants.
Wow.
Don't forget, Wissam, we are talking about immigration that started in the year 1837. First
One of the
Lebanese that touched the Brazilian soil. His name was some kind, I don't know, Eli Bash'alani. The family is Bash'alani. I don't know I don't recall the first name. So you are talking of 7 or 8 generations. Yeah, we have about. But I mean, if you ask real question, how much are they Lebanese? They just remember the tabbouleh, the kibbinayeh, the kes al-araq. But I mean, they are not so, and only some kind of emotional.
What is the reason that the community in Brazil is one of the least connected communities to Lebanon?
No, they are not the least. They come always. They are connected. But don't forget, it's the far distances coming from Brazil, from São Paulo to Beirut, or it's you are crossing continents, as you mentioned.
How long is it? How long is the trip?
About 14, 15 hours. You have to go from São Paulo to Paris, for example, would take about 9-10 hours, and then from Paris to Beirut about 5 hours. It's not easy, and it's costly. And something else, I remember.
It's closer than California.
Yeah, but who told you that the Californians are going to Lebanon as much or more than those? No. I used to ask myself before going to Brazil, what makes people come to Brazil and stay? Why don't they go back home? When I went to Brazil and when I lived in Brazil, I really realized the reason. The life is so enchanting, so easy. I never saw in my life lovely people like the Brazilians. They are so hospitable, so open. What you see in the carnival that happens in February every year in Rio de Janeiro, it's not a reflection, it's not a daily, an annual event. It is simply a reflection of their daily life. These are the Brazilians. If you would be passing with your car in the streets and the music is high in your car and the windshields were down, the windows, people on the street would start dancing. Anyone with a necktie or with a short, they don't care. They love life. I always say this, they have a proverb, their daily life. It's so interesting. They say in Portuguese, amanhã é outro dia. Amanhã, tomorrow, is another day. So just live your life. Knowing that in Brazil, at that time, I think this now is more, the ratio of poverty, more than 70% of the population below the line of poverty. Poor country, poor people, despite this. So when someone goes down there, the life is easy, the life is so simple, no difficulty. People will welcome you anywhere you are. No complications as you could find it somewhere else. When I was in Switzerland, I used to go to a village in the northern part, that's at the borders with Germany, people who speaks Dutch language. The people were not at all welcoming. They would look at you in a bad, ugly way. Who are you? I want to say. In Brazil, I never faced in Brazil a case with someone hostile. always loving, always open up,
You
always.
enjoyed life in Brazil.
It was really lovely.
The food, the meat is delicious.
Food,
I
yeah,
heard they're meat eaters.
They are meat eaters. Yeah.
And did you travel often in Brazil?
Not so much. We went. I went to Manaus. You know, Manaus is the capital city of the Amazon. You know, Amazonia is maybe the largest. Maybe for sure, it's the largest rainy forest on Earth. It's about 2 million square kilometers of forests, rainforests.
Yes.
Amazon.
It is the lung of Earth.
Yeah, for sure. And there, Manaus is the capital city of the state of Amazonia. And at Manaus, you know, a lot of river branches come, small branches, and they gather together, they join together at Manaus, and then they go in one huge river towards the Atlantic Ocean, which is the Amazon River. You know, Wissam, when you approach the ocean, the width of the river will be how much?
How much?
More than 200 miles.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine it?
That's the sea.
It is a sea. 200 miles, the width of the river. And there's something else very, very, very interesting to know, you know. Manaus, when you are there, if you go on a boat into the Amazon, at first, I mean, the Amazon wouldn't be this large as the end. You would go for about maybe 20 or 30 miles in the boat, and you will see 2 rivers running side by side, one red and one black or blue. They are in the same river. Same river.
Different lines within the
No,
river?
no, in the same river. But the color is different because when they started from the source, one color is red and the other color is black or blue. And they go on. That's what some would say. It's a reflection of Al-Aya, Marj al-Bahrayni, Yaltaqiyan, something like this. But it's really interesting. And then after 20 or 30 miles, they go inside and they go in one.
Yes. Doctor, do we take it that you're Brazilian when you watch FIFA?
Always. Always.
And you don't like Argentine, of course.
My kids, they love Messi, but when it comes against Brazil, they're Brazilian.
Yeah. We have a little bit of time to go into Muscat.
Yeah.
One of the countries with the least change in the last century. What was the first impression arriving there, and how was your life in Muscat?
The Omanis.
We'll come back to the Arabic word. So that's a positive thing.
The Omanis are the most modest population, people in the Arab world. Very modest, very humble, very. When I say very, I mean it. It's so nice to sit down with them. You would see them in the cafes, in the streets. They are wearing the same dresses, same turbans, the traditional ones. They are not arrogant as other golfers, because you could see it easily if you sit down with an Omani or with a Qatari, for example, or you could see the difference. So easy. It was nice to come into direct contact with a country that's still ruled by one single man, who is the Sultan Qaboos. Till now, he is the real and the only. Okay, there is a cabinet of ministers. There are whatever any other leaders, but I mean the main decision maker. Yeah. He is the Sultan. That's it. Nobody can deny that he did a big change to the country since he took over. I think 1970 or 71 from his father. The country before was disaster.
Yeah. Of course, when I mean no change, the least change, I mean politically, not.
But I mean politically, it's still the same.
Yes.
And now I think they will face a dilemma by
his death.
Yeah. Because there is no successor. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have any sons or daughters. He doesn't have a successor. Mm-hmm. So how would they deal with it? It's not. It wouldn't be easy. And by the way, it's a very beautiful country. I went to they have high mountains. If you go to the sun, Jabal al-Shams, wow, it's even higher than the mountains in Lebanon. They have Jabal al-Akhdar, the green mountain. It was the base of the revolution against the Sultan, the previous Sultan in the 50s and 60s. Mm-hmm. You know, Dhufar revolution. It was there.
You stayed in Muscat, Doctor, right? And the kids went to school, public schools, private schools?
Private schools.
And were they English, French, or?
No. They graduated from Brasilia from a French school, international school. Okay? Hassan, he finished his high school, French system. When we reached over to Oman, no French schools, no French universities. So Hassan was supposed to attend a British university in Muscat. Bilal and his in Yemen were to go to a British school in Muscat because no French. Mm-hmm. This is a torture for the diplomats and the families.
Mm-hmm. And that British school probably had most of the diplomats' children.
Always.
Yes.
Always. Diplomats should register their kids either in French school or American school or French schools because you cannot follow the local curriculum.
Mm-hmm. With that, Doctor, we finished the time we're out of time for this episode. We thank you very much again for your information and sharing with us your journey. Dear ladies and gentlemen, you can leave your comments, any questions for Dr. Ali Ajami on any of the places where this podcast is published, and we will make sure to relay them to the Honorable Ambassador in the next episodes. Next episode we will start from Oman and going from there on in the early 2000s. Thank you, Dr. Ali Ajami, again.
Thank you.
See you next episode.
Thank you.